production. You already know it's your boy Knowledge the God, Key of Life Production in association with HipHopIsReal.com. Back at it again. And we told you guys we'd be back. More topics to come. We got brother Herman Smalls with us once again, man. Brother Smalls, please introduce yourself. Let them know where you're at. Let them know what's going on, the energy that's behind the place that you're at once again.
Peace. I'm broadcasting, coming at you from Akabul Mind Studio. Got the ancestors on my shoulders. Call us a Cooks, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I'm also wearing a very important emblem, a shirt that it marks a very important time here in New York. And even we made a noise that was heard around the world. This was the anniversary of the Million Youth March is coming up this September 5th. This September 5th, 2018, will be 20 years, 2 decades, 20 years since we tried to raise awareness, raise voices for the plight that our young people were going through. And the person beating that drum, the person trying to bring these issues to the forefront was none other than Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. Now,
Mm.
think again, this September is 20 years, right? He was speaking to the youth about their situation. Now, folks 3 and 4 at that time are now 23 and 24. Those that were 10 and 11 at that time are now just getting into their 30s. So the programs that were effective or weren't effective, it plays out in the things that are going on right now. So that's why a lot of times I just want folks to realize, we are playing with destiny and history here. So if we don't get clear about revolution and struggle and commitment and unity, this chessboard of life, you don't get too many do-overs. So we
Mm.
really gotta get focused. But yes, I am your brother Herman Smalls. Always, it's a privilege to be on this platform that you and brother Genuine Pro have constructed, and that are just sharing so much information for the masses and for our people.
It's that real they talking about. Thought it was funny till Sonny said ain't no walking out. White America done turned me to a beast. Spanish Jessica inspired me to hit the streets. When you want them type up, just know them bags ain't cheap. So make a flip and try to make it last all week. Post up in
We
your hood
appreciate
with a
you
package
always
till it's
rocking with
over.
us, Brother Smalls, and helping us to, build and being a part of the movement as well, and giving us guidance and moving forward on, how to actually, bring the right information, and being able to stand on a lot of things we say because, I think about this all the time when we're doing this, like, the information that people get, we're just like everyone else, learning and growing and trying to understand this world that we're living in, understanding, our position and our path, you know. I'm just, honored to have this position, have the mindset and the people behind me to be able to create a platform where we could talk about issues happening in the world and people are actually willing to listen and taking some of this information. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
this topic though, today's topic that I want to focus on, the retrial of Dr. Bill Cosby. Um,
Hmm.
now we know recently when it first happened and it got blown up and everyone was talking about Bill Cosby being a rapist and him being accused of multiple women. We seen when it first happened, multiple women came into play afterwards. It went up the count went up to 50. I believe New York Times printed an issue with about 38 women sitting on the front of it, talking about they were abused by Bill Cosby in the 80s, 90s, and even in 2000s. Um,
Mm.
him drugging them, putting, Quaaludes and things like that in their drinks and taking advantage,
Hmm.
looking at Hollywood, a lot of things have been coming out, Harvey Weinstein, he talks,
Mm.
you seen he was called out for assaulting, sexual assault. Um, recently, Kevin Spacey, pedophilia, him being homosexual, things like that. just even a brother, uh, one of the brothers, I forgot his name, Terry Owens. Terry Owens, one of the brothers who acts, in multiple films that people know him from Everybody Hates Chris, White Chicks, and things. He talks about being groped by, Harvey Weinstein and all of these things that's happened and things like that. So we know there's a mindset in Hollywood where there's powerful men taking what they want, sexually abusing people, things like that. Now, I'm reading these articles, man, and one of the things that stuck out for me is they kept calling him America's dad.
Mm, mm, mm.
Because
Yeah.
America's dad, and I just thought that was interesting. Um, well, I just wanted to update people. Now, this is the first trial. It was a hung jury, and he basically the case was basically thrown out and things like that. And now there's a retrial, and another woman saying that she was raped by Bill Cosby in 2004, and this is what he's going to court for currently right now. You know, first I just want to know your thoughts, Brother Small, before we get into the details and everything about just you being around, you seeing the rise of Bill Cosby, one of the most powerful African American entertainers, comedians, America's father. You know what I'm saying? A black man. They calling him America's father. You know what I'm saying? He cleaned up our image a lot with the Cosby Show. Mr. Huck,
Mm.
you know, gave life lessons through his shows. Made us want to have a family like that. Everybody wanted to have like a family like the Cosbys and things like that. What was your initial thoughts? And if you've heard these rumors before, because I've heard even now watching D.L. Hughley and him speaking on it, saying this is an old Hollywood thing. People have been saying Cosby's a rapist, and people even say, but D.L. Hughley even saying his characters has always been questioned. He's always been one of those kind of people that he didn't really respect people like that and things like that. He's given his own accounts, his own stories. Now, what was your thought when you actually heard all of these accusations? When was the first time you heard it? Did you hear about this long time ago? Was it new when you first heard it? And just what was your mindset knowing that this is Bill Cosby? You know what I'm saying? America's father.
Yes, America's father, a black man. I mean,
Yes.
even that dichotomy, it's to fit those two in. When you think of what has been done historically to the black male image here, to have a black man rise to the point where he can be that image to America. But maybe that speaks to how fickle that imagery or the image game America plays actually is. Uh, it's if you look at the time frame in which all of this has unfolded with him, and New York has a very interesting kind of role as just a background environment because a lot of Cosby's success and work has been with CBS, and
Yes.
CBS has a major plant right here in New York. And for decades, even again as a trainer, I've worked with executives connected so with that company. So it's deep roots here, and it's into with power. There comes power when you have these major positions as executive producer and director, and these are very, especially coming up, going back these decades, the 50s, 60s, 70s, when some of these doors were being opened for the first time. Very powerful, mostly men, have risen to those positions, and have there always been deals and backroom deals, and are they now just getting a light shed on them? I mean, enough stories are coming out that a very easy case could be made for this. Hey, that was the norm. And but again, let's go back to the era, just to jump out, but really in jumping in, look at the Kennedy presidency, and now most folks are okay. How do those two connect?
Hmm.
Now they're writing in books in great details as to some of the escapades, that John F. Kennedy was involved in. I
Yeah.
mean, Marilyn Monroe over. I mean, they say there was an underground walkway in the White House that you can some go through secret channels get under the White House. I think it was originally built as an escape route. But, it was a passageway only few people knew that they was bringing women in and out of the White House. Now this is, again, back in the 50s and the 60s. So the point I'm making, not justifying, but look at the climate and look at the activity that men in power were engaged in. So I don't think it's a major stretch of the imagination to think that a lot of things of that nature could have been taking place as the norm. And now we can look back at any period and be extremely judgmental as, oh, that was so uncivilized. How do they, depending on how far back in time you want to go, people look amazingly barbaric. But what's interesting is we got to look at what becomes culturally acceptable. Because look at the stuff now we're embracing as saying, oh, this is part of our culture now. And think of what people would say about this 30, 40 years ago from now. So looking at that context and in other contexts, what enemies did he make? Again, back in New York, it's just like, what enemies did he make? Because it seemed like there's something else behind stirring this pot, man. This man is what now, 80? Or come on. I mean, what would be served? Physically, what would be served? For him to spend the last 5-10 years of his life in the jail cell? Is that what the enemy for? Or is it for money? I'm saying, or does this just teach the world? No matter, we'll go get you. We'll whatever. If you were an abuser, we'll find you. I mean, it's just like, what they did when they hunted down the Nazis that were escaping to different parts of the world. I mean, has it elevated to that level to where they're running these people? The man is legally blind right now. And okay, and I'm not saying this to garner empathy for him. I'm just trying to say who is driving this agenda and who is benefiting from it. So, I mean, what are your insights? Because whenever I hear the media, pushing these pawns in this way, I'm always trying to see what the backstory is, because they're always going to wiggle here and take their true activity over there.
Before I get into that, I just want to ask you, what was your first thoughts when you first just heard about it? Like, where were you at? What was your mindset when you just heard Bill Cosby being accused of rape and things like? Did you believe it? Were you skeptical? What was your first thoughts and the initial reaction when you first heard this?
I mean, the mindset I have now, I had pretty much. I've been on this, like, I have not accepted what this media has pushed for a minute, man. I've been reading underground material since I've been in my early 20s, man. Because, when things didn't fit, I always, okay, let me find the answer. Now there's so much available online. Before, you had to go to rare bookstores to get information that's not commonly known. So for me, no, I didn't. I was like, like I'm just said a moment ago, what's behind this?
Okay.
Who's really there? So the shock? No, what's the shock? I know it's a game of image. And even this again, these side stories I think connect. I hope I'll listen to people's feedback. I hope they don't think it's jumped around too much. But earlier, I worked before I started my fitness company. I was working in a hotel, very famous hotel called the Helmsley Palace. This is going back. So anyone who knows, I'll mention the name, Leona Helmsley. Now, her and her husband, Harry Helmsley, owned that and several. They were major real estate holders in New York. So she was the queen of the palace. That hotel that I worked in was the Helmsley Palace. Now, wealthy, extremely wealthy woman, but they end up coming up with some charges related to taxes. She made some statements that were seen as elitist and, only the poor pay taxes and things of that nature. Now, do they had, I forgot how much time she did. This woman saw the inside of a jail cell. I think 8 months, 6 months, 3 months, 9 months. I forgot the length of time. But if you have money in this society, I mean, that's the time to money. The only time you get sat down, the only time you get humiliated when you got money or when you got power is when you mess over the people who got more money and more power. And that's even crazy to imagine, because if they're billionaires, so you must have pissed off some trillionaires or some power players that want to teach you or make an example of you. And I mean, that's how my mind sees. So my thing is, who is trying to make an example of this man? And what's the real agenda? So I've been thinking along that line for a while. So and to be honest, a specific answer I haven't gotten. But I know somebody is pushing this pawn for a reason. I haven't fully answered what that reason is.
Now, it went from, him being accused to so many women coming out to where it got so ridiculous. Like 50, 60 women accusing him of the same act. Now, sometimes they say, if one person says it, okay, it might sound, but when everyone is saying it, it
Hmm.
must be some truth to it or something like that.
Hmm.
Knowing that, how Hollywood is and things like that, do you like what do you think about just so many women coming out, and not only so many women coming out, but mainly the majority being nothing but white women as
Hmm.
well? I think that plays like another dynamic into it as well. The fact that it's mainly white women who are accusing Bill Cosby of this rape thing, and and we got to be sensitive because at the end of the day, we have mothers, we have sisters, we have a lot of women in our family, and we know if something happened to them, we'd want to protect them and make sure that they got their justice as well for
Hmm.
whatever situation could happen to them. But looking at all of these accusations and then it being so many white women, it definitely
Hmm.
raised that thought in my mind. Like, okay, this is definitely some type of craziness. Now when we look back, I've seen this article on CNN, and people saying that Bill Cosby was attempting to buy CBS, and that's when he got hit with a lot of these charges and everything like that. And just looking at just the level of how many people are coming out and saying he did this. What's your thoughts about just so many him being accused of doing this with so many white women as well?
I mean, volume. If you go by the old theory, if there's enough smoke, there's fire. Definitely could come into play as a thought. Uh, what the they being so many of them white women now? Again, what I keep trying to do to give this a frame. Look at the times. Now, this is kind of mid 60s, early 70s. This is a kind of flower child type deal. This is, folks are just kind of putting the acid down and the bell bottoms, or it was just a very much folks were trying to really experiment with that, interracial we all one kind of thing on one level. And one of those levels was the artistic. The artistic crowd is always pushing the envelope.
Hmm.
They're the ones with the first one with the tattoos all over the place and the piercings and the color, the artists, because they always in some ways felt like outcasts. So they use their expression to vent. With that as a factor, why wouldn't that be more of a reason? I mean, I don't know. Do you think I'm reading too much into it?
No, no, I don't think so because initially when I first heard it, I didn't believe it. I was just like, okay, they trying to take out Cosby now. Now it's time to take out Bill Cosby. The listening to D.L. Hughley and his conversation of speaking about how Bill Cosby, how he degraded some of the people he's worked with, and his perception of just how he was already a mean type of person, and that, and me being a fan of DL Hughley, listening to him, watching him as a comic, that was
Mm,
be the only thing that gave me more like, okay, okay, maybe he's living that type of lifestyle, because just because you see something and he has been great on television doesn't mean he can't be capable of doing these things as well. But I feel like also it's been so many years later, and the same thing with Harvey Weinstein and some of these guys. Like, some of these people, like you said, it's like a norm.
mm,
These guys have given awards to these same people that they so-called sexually abused, and you see those people kissing them on camera and showing them love, and but then as soon as he's getting like, oh, now he's getting put in this box where it's like, oh, you were this evil person. Everyone wants to come out and bash you, but where was everybody all them years when he was doing it? Like, okay, yeah, you guys were
right.
afraid or whatever the case is, but weren't you just as hurt when you was being abused then and things like that? And I'm not saying, because this is a sensitive topic, because I'm sure people's been abused, and it's hard for them to come out and say, okay, I've been abused, but at the same
Hmm.
time, with so many people, it's like, you know, um, it raised an eyebrow to me. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Now, when you're looking at Bill Cosby and some of the things that he's being accused of, the lady who's said that this happened in 2014, the story's all the same. You know, he drugged them, they felt a little woozy, and now, you know, he was forcing himself on them and things like that. Now, with him being such a powerful figure in Hollywood and people, you know, it's like how much does the money or you having money? Because he's a black man abusing white women. I
Right.
feel like you automatically going to jail. You know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
Emmett
Hmm.
Till was murdered for, you know, so-called whistling at a white woman. And you know what I'm saying? Years later, the
Hmm.
white woman said he didn't even do anything. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Right. Right.
So,
Right.
you
Right.
know,
But remember, that's the artistic environment. They, I mean, Sammy Davis Jr. was the Rat Pack. I mean, it was acceptable. I mean, from that perspective, in that crowd. I mean, and that's what was driving Hoover crazy. That group. Look, they intermingles with the Negro. They are influencing our young. They're corrupting the American family, and so Hoover. That was the thing. He felt rock and roll and all that stuff was pushing intermingling. So there was, and again, those were young people then. See, we keep forget we see Cosby being led around now, gray hair, feeble. I mean, he was you then.
mm,
He was young and popping. He was that times a Kanye, whoever is popping right now. That's who Cosby was. So and you not that all of them, some of them are family people. I don't mean to try to, but those who are quote living that life, they up in the club, they in the VIP, they popping bottles, they're having situations involving other people that in some respects are in that circle and are engaged in that same activity. Now, one's career may continue to go. These people who may be doing those things at that time that are interacting either for mutual benefit or they think my association in this activity will get me closer to a goal I have or position me because that was part of that cabal. Now, am I saying it's right, wrong? But if there are adults in the game, if there are adults in the game playing by rules that they both understand, at the conclusion of those engagements, then to want to, Monday Night Football, okay, no, I didn't mean, or you shouldn't have, especially in many instances, these things are repeated
mm,
engagements over years. How
mm,
many times is somebody going to trick you with the same thing and the same thing happen? And I don't like when I do that, when I hear myself doing that, because I would never want to make mockery of someone who was violated against their will. That has to be the most horrible feeling in the world. But to be fair, I always try to see. Let's look at the framework in which this time, because rarely, how many cases come up that we got to think back 40 years ago to come up with this? No, I can't remember the last one. 30 years ago? Oh, well, in 1981, she, come on. So again, that was a generation and a half, if not two generations ago, in many respects. So it was a different culture, and things would happen. I want to do one last example, and even with my examples, I just want to see how this affects people from some of the accusations. The repeated thing I'm hearing is that he gave me a pill, or we took pills. No, I think it's he gave me a pill. Matter of fact, I don't think it's ever he slipped a pill, or I think it's he.
some I was reading some of the it was like okay he gave me a cup of wine. He gave me
Okay.
this. So it
Oh,
was always like, oh, he
okay.
gave me two pills for a headache or
Uh,
my
okay. Right.
menstruation. I was,
Okay.
and he said, I got something for you. And then the
So,
next
so
thing you
then,
know, they
so
indisposed and they
then,
can't.
so then, in the instances that he gave a pill, he gave it
Say that
ended up
again,
being
brother
some.
Smalls.
In an instances where he is saying I'm giving you a pill, he was misrepresenting it as something that would help with some kind of physical ailment like menstrual cramps. It wasn't like, hey, this is a quaalude. Hey, this is an upper. It wasn't like, hey, girl, you gonna hang out with me? Try this out.
Yeah, exactly. It
And
wasn't
now
like
for some of the descriptions I heard was here's a pill. And the only point I'm making now, how different would that be if, and this is probably happening right now, a brother's passing a sister a drink. Hey sis, you want a Long Island iced tea? You want a Bacardi and rum? You want a vodka and cranberry juice? And he may go to the bar and come back and bring her just three drinks. and she is, dancing with him. And so I'm saying, so now is giving those drinks the pretext that he used in his. So alcohol is a drug, and if it's ever raised to that level, alcohol has been one of the quote drugs men, women have been engaging in with different outcomes since alcohol was in existence. So the point I'm making is using a substance just for both people that agree to use that as substance. If it's snuck on anybody, that Mickey stuff, if evidence of that, that's a crime. You
Saying
know,
it's Mickey in them, like he's slipping things in they drink, and then he's basically taking advantage of them while they're powerless and renderless
okay,
to.
no. Then that's straight up crime. That's I thought some of the other stuff because I haven't delved so deeply into it because so many of these.
What they're saying. These are the accusations that he is basically taking advantage and forcefully taking advantage of women when they're unable to fight him off. You know,
Nah, yeah. If those are actual cases, then no, that's what rape is for. That's what that charge is for. That taking advantage of someone, whether you physically brutally suppress them, or you with chemicals or with fear, anything you use to make someone do something against their will sexually, yeah, that's clearly rape. Some of the things that the stories that I was hearing was more related. It was related to the Playboy Mansion. I
uh-huh.
think there's and they had pills here, drinks there, cocaine there. That was again the environment, and those things were acceptable to have on hand.
And the previous trial was a hung jury and everything like that. Now he's also had depositions where he's admitted to giving these women quaaludes and saying like this is something, this is what we did. This was how we partied back in these days and things like that. To a certain extent and everything like that. Now, when we look at just the atmosphere of Hollywood, we've heard of the casting couch and things like that. Corey Feldman has come out and said himself, the casting couch even applies to children, and that's the biggest secret in Hollywood is pedophilia. You know what I'm saying, and things like
He
that.
said that. He
Oh,
said that.
this is all yes. I could send you the clip right now. I could probably insert the clip as we're speaking about it, but
Okay. Okay.
so this is things that's been said, and he's one. He recently someone stabbed him like last week or the week before because he's coming out with a whole movie to show about how Hollywood the biggest secret is pedophilia. They're raping kids, and this is the biggest thing that's happening. So if kids aren't safe in Hollywood, then that means women and even men aren't safe. Because everybody wants to get to a certain point, people want to get out of poverty or whatever they're at. They want to reach fame and things like that. And we know that, that's how it is in Hollywood. Like, regardless, we know that we've seen it, in movies or, whether people's come out and said, I had to do this to get a part. We see this. It's kind of like you said, it's a natural thing that goes on in Hollywood that everyone, and even the actors have said it themselves, like, okay, well, this is kind of how the game is played. This is how the Hollywood thing. This is how the game is played. Now, when I look at that, I look at it like, then everyone is kind of guilty. I'm not saying the person being abused, especially not when it comes to children, but a lot of people, if that's what like, if you're going to Hollywood and potentially gonna have men try to talk to you, even you as a man, try to ask you as a man, knowing that you're probably heterosexual for sexual favors to get further and things like that. It's like, what about, the person, who's actually accepting to do these things? You know what I'm saying? And I'm not, but at the end of the day, it's like, where's the accountability as well for the,
Exactly. Yeah. And then even on the thing of accountability, because it starts with individual accountability.
yeah.
Because and what always gets me is everybody knew. It's like everybody knew. Especially it kills me when I'm somewhere and they say everybody knew. Then the first thing I say, well, I didn't know, so I'm not part of everybody. Like
Yeah.
even like yeah, right here in New York when some of these scandals were breaking out, it's like you didn't know. No, I really did not know
Yeah.
about some stuff that was coming out right And I rolled through the Bronx. Bronx, Mitchell Houses, Patterson. A home of Rod Strickland, Nate Tiny Archibald,
Yeah,
Patterson Houses. I ran Barkley. I mean, so I know the Bronx, and I didn't hear a peep of this stuff. But
yeah.
my point with that is that there are things that can go on immediately around you. It be heavy and thick, and you not miss it because you're not flowing either with that energy.
Okay.
Uh, so when you have that in mind, I think that's when a situation like you mentioned can take place. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, nah, real talk. Where people are misunderstanding what's happening and they don't have the knowledge and things like that. But when you are faced with those oppositions and faced with those things, you know, it takes a strong person to turn these things down because it's like, you're going against who you are, your morals, who you are, some of the
Well,
things
well,
that,
see. Listen to what you said. You're going against who you are.
yeah,
See, that's the thing is maybe people end up finding out who they really are.
yeah,
Maybe they thought there was somebody they wasn't.
mm,
Because if you really are something, you don't end up in certain situations because the price gets too high, or
hmm,
either it's too high or something about you don't want to pay the price. And
yeah,
then I guess I use stories a lot, but I think this story might be relative. And, as most of I have a real passion about fitness, about health. It's just one of the most important things in the world to me. It's one of the things I was put on this planet to do, to engage in it and to help teach it and share it and bring other people on board. As a teenager, my two loves, boxing and bodybuilding, and the two take you in two different directions after a while. Because the bodybuilding, you're getting tighter and bigger, but you're not getting quick and agile. You need speed and agility in boxing. But to go on the track to bodybuilding, I was seeing such great progress. I started hearing more information about some of the things that took place in it, related to steroids. When you get to a certain level to really compete, to really, 'cause, I mean, you look at some of that stuff in the magazine, man. You don't get a
yeah,
bicep. The size your bicep is not supposed to be the size of somebody's head.
yeah,
You know that? No, that's not supposed to happen. So these guys. So I was starting to hear, and I was becoming disheartened because even at a young age, I had already been finding out about holistic living and
mm,
how we don't need these needles and these items to keep health. You eat health. The earth gives it to you.
hmm,
That was like, no, they shoot what to get what. So even though I had a love for the symmetry, to use the body as like a sculpture piece. But when I found out what that price was, I said, no, I can't continue down that path. I'll never do that, but I'll do it. I'll love it and do it to the level that I can honor it. And I think when you like, okay, I want that so much till I will start doing this, or I will start. You start doing stuff that your spirit or some part of you tells you it's wrong. You know it's wrong, and you do it. And that when you start paying that price, but then sometimes we pay that price, and then we want to blame people later.
yeah,
If you sign that contract, man, I mean the contract in blood. If
yeah,
you
yeah,
if you if you signing yourself away, then when they come for you. When they come for your soul, like, hey, you sign this away. We ain't no more talking. Come on.
yeah,
So that's it. So the thing is, like, they put the con. No, 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 nope. Thank you, but whatever goes with that, you can have. Your road might be a little longer, a little rougher, but you'll get to where you need to be, and you'll be okay with the person you are when you get there.
yeah. I mean, you know, speaking on that, it's like I'm of the generation of, of course, YouTube and, conspiracy theories and Illuminati, the birth of the whole, everything is Illuminati. If you want to make it to Hollywood and you want to do certain things, whether it's the music industry or the film industry, you got to sell your soul. We've heard rappers say, I sold my soul to the devil. It was a crappy deal. All I got was a few toys like a Happy Meal. You know what I'm saying? And that's a quote from Kanye West, by the way.
Right.
So,
I remember.
yeah, so just, certain things, whether they sold their soul physically or gave certain parts of themselves, or they're no longer that person they used to be to gain material wishes. And it's been going back for a long time. We've even had Tupac says, you know, to about Dr. Dre, he doesn't know if he wants to suck dick or eat pussy. He doesn't, you know, like
Mm,
the quotes that, you know, he says, you know, Quincy Jones, oh, well, yeah, well, Quincy Jones wanted to have sex with him so he could marry his daughter. Like, these are the words that these guys have said. Great big
yeah,
songs
yeah, yeah.
out of their own mouths. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it makes you look into the game, into this whole Hollywood, into everything. You know, like even when I'm looking at what's going on with Bill Cosby, like what game, like you said, what game is being played right now? You know, the whole the same lawyer who's representing Bill Cosby is the same lawyer that represents Michael Jackson and his child cases.
Mm,
And if you can look at public perception, these men are already guilty already, regardless of what the court says. They could be found not guilty, whatever. Michael Jackson was never found guilty of any of these things. But
mhm,
public perception has already deemed him what they deem him. Cosby is
mhm,
already, you know, there's jokes, there's memes, there's everything. You
mhm,
know what I'm saying?
mhm,
Don't get
mhm,
Bill
mhm,
Cosby. Watch your drink. You know what I'm saying? Like
mhm, mhm, mhm.
now, regardless, his legacy has already been tainted. You know what
Mm,
I'm saying? Of who he was. You know,
right, right.
he's a lot of people's heroes, and now those people are like, yo, my hero. You know, it's hard to look. You know, damn, my hero. You know, is being accused of raping over 50 women.
Yeah.
You know what
Mm,
I'm saying? Like this
mhm,
is
mhm.
so. Regardless of if he's found innocent, the damage has been done. You know what I'm saying? Regardless if he even beats this case, this trial, the damage has already been done. Um, Now when you look at Hollywood and all these games that are being played, how do we basically maneuver through this? Because at the end of the day, we get caught up in the stories, the headlines. You know, even within his case, a lady came out with her shirt off, and she basically called him a rapist into his face. They had to pull her away. She had the names of the women that he abused on her, and she was also on the show as well. And she was young. So, is she a crisis actor? Is like who put her on the job to do that? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a lot of things that's out there, and then the story blows up. Now that's all over. It's adding on to whatever perception they want. Is this revenge for OJ getting away with it, and then him putting on the book? If I did it, this is how I would have did it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like these are the things that go through my mind when I'm watching and reading these stories. You know what I'm saying? Now, when you look at what's aspiring now, and some of the things we talked about within Hollywood, within abuse and things like that, and we're talking about people who's really been in it, who's talking about these are the things, you know, and then we look at a whole nother world of this whole Hollywood thing where people who think the way we think, we might be a little crazy, or like, guys, you really believe like this thing would go on and no one would like we're taking it too far. Maybe it's too far. Maybe we're reading too far into this. These guys. It was like, is it that disgusting? Is it that disturbing? Is the world that twisted? You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of like the point I get to. You know what I'm saying? Like how far? Like what do you encourage your children to do? You know what I'm saying? If your kid says I want to be an actor or a singer or something like that, is that a conversation you should have with them? You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Like,
mm, mm.
are we living in a fantasy where, where we think that this is all just, conspiracies, or it's just, it may not be real. Like, well, what's your thoughts on that, and how deep this rabbit hole really goes? You know?
Yeah, I think it goes pretty deep, man.
Well,